Good afternoon and welcome back to another episode of Mean Green Game Day. I'm your host, Michelle Brooks, and I am joined by analysts Justin Ballou, Connor Hippett, and Jack Brown. Unfortunately, our man on the ground, Zach Fox, cannot join us today, but he will be back next week. Last week, the Mean Green basketball team had a split series against Louisiana Tech. Friday night, we lost 68-63. So I want to talk to you guys. What happened in that game?
So I'm just gonna. I think the thing that happened is it was a very close and tight game up until UNT really started to break away and they got on that big run. They were up almost by 10 points. Thomas Bell gets 3 fouls in less than 4 minutes, and it takes him out of the game. And they sub Isaiah Crawford back in, who had 27 points, a career high that game. And he only had 11 at that point, but Thomas Bell was really, I think defensively was guarding him really good. Because you can't have Zach Simmons guard both Isaiah Crawford and Kenny Lofton Jr. because Zach Simmons can't be two places at once. So when you take Thomas Bell, the leading shot blocker for the Mean Green, out of the equation, it opens up this stretch forward of Isaiah Crawford who can shoot threes and score, and he ended up scoring the next 7 points.
Well, with Bell coming off of that injury that he had to his knee a couple games ago, he did score 17 points. He led the team in points. Justin, I know that you have some points on that, so.
Yeah, Bell, Reese, and Reuben Jones all in double figures in this game. So we said last week that it was going to have to be unsung heroes stepping up, and we actually saw that. The offense on Friday night I thought was really good. They were getting into their sets really well. They were moving the ball around pretty well. Just the defense, they just let two guys beat them. Isaiah Crawford 27 points, and then Kenny Lofton Jr. Zach Simmons could not stop him. He had 14 points. Connor talked about his good defense last week, but he struggled in the Friday game.
Yeah, those two players, Isaiah Crawford and Kenneth Lofton for Louisiana Tech, combined for 41 of their 68 points on Friday evening and shot 75% from the field. I don't care how good you shoot. Like UNT shot pretty well from the field. We shot over 50% in that game. I don't care how good you shoot, though. You can't beat a team that's shooting 75%, at least between a few players. And in basketball, if you have a couple of guys like Louisiana Tech had in that game to take over, which they did, you're not going to be able to compete. And despite us playing better on Friday than we did Saturday, we ended up losing on Friday, ended up winning on Saturday. So I didn't think that we played incredibly well on Friday, or on Saturday, despite us winning. You look at Saturday's game, for example. We only shot 40-something% from the field, but Louisiana Tech only shot 35% from the field. So despite us winning and losing, you can't just look at wins and losses. You have to look at the performance per game. And, Jack, you brought up a good point. When a certain player is not in the game to help pick up the defense, it's going to have kind of a string effect on other players. And we saw that take place on Friday evening. So hopefully UNT does not have foul trouble as we go on in conference play.
Well, Speaking of performances, I want to talk about Javian Hamlet. Lately, we haven't been seeing a lot put on the boards by him. He had 7 points on Friday, 4 on Saturday. That's hurting us, obviously. Where do we go from here? I know that we've had some players step up like Reuben Jones. He's a freshman. He's fresh. We like him a lot. But we need Javian Hamlet to get back in the game. What do you guys think about that?
Well, it was heartbreaking on Friday night because he had a chance to send that game to overtime, and he missed the three-point shot. Jack talked about his struggling three-point percentage last week, and it's something that was evident this weekend. La Tech did a nice job defending him, but other guys stepped up, and the offense was fine. But going forward, Javian Hamlet's going to have to take control of this offense again if we want to get to where we want to be.
Well, the concerning thing about Javian Hamlet is both games against La Tech, he didn't go to the free throw line once. And I don't care how much you shoot around. If you don't get to the line and calm yourself down, which Hamlet needs to do, you're not going to have a good game, and that's why he didn't put up that much scoring numbers.
So adjustments were made. Obviously, we came back. We won 57-55 on Saturday. But I know that all of us were talking earlier, and they looked way better on Friday than they did on Saturday. Do you guys think Saturday's win was just kind of luck? I mean, we came out here, we performed better than them, in comparison to Friday, but
well,
still was kind of underwhelming.
They definitely made adjustments defensively. You see, they only had one double-figure scorer, La Tech did, and that was Archibald with only 10 points. So they didn't let two guys beat them on defense, and that was the biggest key on Saturday. The offense was slow, though, on Saturday, I thought. 7 minutes into the first half until they scored a field goal and a point. That can't happen going forward with good teams. They had a lead. They kind of let it slip away. Their defense was there to pick them up during that lull of 7 minutes, but that can't happen moving forward.
We had a season low of 19 points in the second quarter, but that defense did make a difference. I do agree. Connor, do you have something to say about this?
I was just going to say real quickly, UNT found a way to win, and the better teams find a way to win, even those ugly kind of games. So moving forward, UAB still has to play Western Kentucky, and we just got on the schedule. We can play UAB. We play UAB now on March 5th and 6th. So that's likely going to decide the West Division of Conference USA. So if UNT can find a way to muster together and play more consistent, I think UNT has a pretty good shot of being the #1 seed in the Conference USA tournament.
Go ahead.
And all of those good teams remaining that we play, one thing in common, they all have good big men. So it's important that Zach Simmons gets back to his good defense that Connor was talking about last week. And then Abu Usmani stepped up so well last week. He matched up better physically with Kenny Lofton, I thought. Because Zach Simmons was just tall and he couldn't really match Lofton's physicality. But Usmani did off the bench. And McCaslin did a nice job of putting him in when Lofton was in. And he kind of shut him down.
And I think, and like going off the consistency thing that you said, Connor, I think you can't let a team shoot 10 more free throws than you, and that's what La Tech did the first game. In the second game, it was kind of even with free throws. But like you said, Justin, with the big men, the USA are stacked with big men all around, and these good teams have good big men, and if you're Zach Simmons, you have to step up defensively.
Well, speaking of big men, UNT takes on Southern Miss tonight and tomorrow. So let's take a look at that game. They have 6'8", 225 Tyler Stevenson. He's a big threat. He's a key player on the other side of the court, I would say. Who's y'all's key players for the game against Southern Miss tonight?
I agree with you, Michelle. Tyler Stevenson, it's just like Kenny Lofton last week. It's just Zach Simmons, that matchup, Tyler Stevenson and Zach Simmons, it's going to come down to that.
I also look at a player like Tay Hardy, 10 points a game for them. They don't really have a lot of guys that can score, but Tyler Stevenson and Tay Hardy are definitely their top 2 scorers.
The energy, I thought, on defense was terrific against the last game against Louisiana Tech. So let's feed off of that. And I'm going to start with James Reese. I thought he really brought a lot of that edge on defense. So I want to see how the team feeds off of his energy moving forward. So I'm going to look at James Reese and, of course, Javion Hamlet on offense to kind of mold together and form a really good ending to the season for UNT.
I'm excited to see how Hamlet comes out tonight. He needs to get back on the board, make a difference for this team. For Southern Miss, there's one other player I want to take a look at, Jaron Pierre Jr. Okay, he is 3-time CUSA Freshman Player of the Week just this season. You guys see him as a threat tonight? I do.
Yeah, he's kind of like Max Fielder from Rice. I think it just shows how the young talent in the CUSA is going to be tough for UNT later in the future when Hamlin and Simmons are gone.
Seems to be a lot of good freshmen in this conference. Yeah, UNT has a couple good themselves, and Reuben Jones and Abu Usmani.
So do you guys see this Southern Miss team as a challenge tonight? What are the keys to the game for UNT to come out with a solid win?
Southern Miss, they're just, like McCaslin said in an interview earlier this week, they're physical, and we saw what happened when UNT played physical teams like Loyola, West Virginia, Mississippi State. Those are way better teams than Southern Miss. Southern Miss lost the last 6 games. It's just when we play a physical team, we tend to just play terrible on offense because we don't push the ball, we slow it down, and when you play a physical team, you can't really run your offense. So it's really gonna show what we can do against a physical team because like Western Kentucky, they're a physical team, so we're just gonna have to prove ourselves tonight.
And coming off of a half where we didn't shoot that well in the second half of the last game against Louisiana Tech, I think UNT is going to make it a point to really come out firing on all cylinders on offense to try to take an early lead and kind of put that thought into Southern Miss, like, okay, Southern Miss is going to really have to fight back. And I really think they're going to want to start off well so they can put kind of Southern Miss in a hole, if you will. And Jack, you mentioned a good point. Southern Miss is a physical team, so UNT is going to have to respond to that. And Southern Miss has lost lately, so Southern Miss is going to want to come out with a win. So UNT has to be ready, but I'm sure that they're going to want to perform better. Despite winning the last game, they're just going to want to perform better on offense. So look for UNT to kind of start off on fire, if you will, on offense.
I think the number one key to this game is that you cannot overlook this opponent. This is a team that we saw go heel to heel with La Tech, obviously a team that we just played. So this is a team that's capable of going toe-in-toe with good teams and is capable of upsets too. That's the number one key. You also have to stop Tyler Stevenson. Zach Simmons has to get back to that good defense, and then if he struggles, it's important for McCaslin to take him out and put in Abu Usmani, who we talked about as being more physical.
Tyler Stevenson, he is averaging 14.7 points per game, 7.4 boards per game. Crazy. So we're going to stop him tonight, right? That's how we feel?
I would hope so with Bell and Simmons down low. I hope we stop Stevenson because they run the offense through him.
Because, Justin, you brought up a really good point that I was going to say. Southern Miss is sitting like almost right below. I think La Tech is in between us. And they had a split series with La Tech. So this game is really important for Conference USA standings, wouldn't you guys say? Not just the game tonight, but going forward for the rest of the season.
It is, and this is a great opponent for UNT to get back to their identity, because looking at the schedule ahead, which is something they cannot do this weekend, is they cannot be looking ahead. But they have Western Kentucky coming up, UAB, Old Dominion eventually, and Marshall. So this is the series where you need to get back to your identity on offense. You have to figure out why we're not scoring 5 points multiple times during a game, or for 5 minutes during a game. That can't happen. You got to get back to your identity of moving the ball inside with Simmons, cutting to the lane with Javion Hamlet. The offense has to go this weekend.
I agree. Well, when we come back, we're going to take a look at another split series that happened last week. Stay with us.
We know what it's like to go to war, to sacrifice for what you believe is right. We know what it's like to be away from our family and to lose our friends. We know what it's like to bravely step forward. We see those who are redefining what it means to serve, what it means to be a patriot, and what it means to be a hero, to selflessly serve our communities, to step up to an unknown situation, and to save lives. From our nation's injured veterans to the faces of courage across America today, we see you. We support you. We salute you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Dad, 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Your voice, your vote. In our democracy, they matter and make our community and our country stronger. So make yours count. Get registered, learn the issues, know the candidates, and vote by or on November 3rd. Visit vote411.org for registration and election information. This message is furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Thanks for staying with us. The UNT women's basketball team also had a split series against the Raging Cajuns last week. I had the chance to catch up with head coach Jaylee Mitchell at the beginning of this season. Here's her take on the back-to-back play in Conference USA.
You know, we're going to have to get used to playing literally back-to-back every week, you know, where you play a Friday night and then more than likely an early Saturday afternoon. So that'll be a little bit different, but it's kind of tournament style, like you're playing a tournament every week. So just something I think that, you know, if you look at it in a positive way, you're going to have to do that come conference tournament time anyway. So you might as well just, you know, get ready, be prepared, understand what it takes. It's something new, but it's not, you know, it's doable. And so we're going to learn ourselves and what works best for our team, and we're going to tackle it the best way we can.
So obviously, because of the coronavirus, everything has changed in sports, in life, everything we know. But Conference USA this year changed it up and decided to have games back to back. Now, that's splitting up a lot of series. It is tournament style, but teams are not playing like it's a tournament. How do you guys think it's going?
I want to get y'all's opinion on this. I hate it. I hate the back-to-backs. I think it just sets it up easily for a split, because you play the first team, that's your strategy game. The second game is all about just your players, who's going to outplay each other. I hate the back-to-backs. I wish CUSA was like other conferences and they would just play just whoever.
Yeah, I'm not for the format, but it's something you have to deal with during these difficult times. But I really feel for, especially these younger players who growing up, they thought their college life and experience would be hanging out with friends. And of course, if they're looking to play sports, they're going to be competitive, so they're going to practice, they're doing the things that they need to do and the goals they need to meet. But they're also still having a life outside of sports. They don't have to worry about all this. I mean, obviously, this is not something you'd predict. You don't predict a pandemic. But now their lives have completely changed, like Michelle mentioned. And the things that they have to do have completely changed. So, like, for example, practice. They have to meet all these certain protocols every single day just to go out and participate. And some of these teams aren't playing for 1 or 2 weeks. So a lot of things have changed for not just individuals, but teams. And back-to-back games also can affect the psyche of a lot of these players. So it's really difficult.
I think it's necessary with the coronavirus, though, because it does severely limit travel, which is something that's big with the whole COVID situation. But like Jack said, it does really give the losing team on Friday night a chance to restart things and kind of rematch up for the Saturday games. And it has led to a lot of splits, and it's also led to a lot of blowouts in those Saturday games, because the Friday night, the good team will just kind of figure out what works, and then Saturday they'll execute it better. So yeah, it does kind of set up for like that in women's and men's Conference USA this season.
And
so Justin, I thought you made a really good point, how the better team can come out really hot on Friday and then get beat on Saturday, or vice versa. The better team can come out and beat them, but but what I was going to say is we had a split series last week against Louisiana Tech. On Friday night we lost 60-55. It was close. What were y'all's takeaways from that game?
It's just Quincy Noble had no help, and that's what happens when UNT loses. She doesn't have help, and they don't shoot the three ball well. They were 4 for 24 from the 3-point line. And they turned over the ball 20 times. That's what's going to happen when you're going to lose if you do that. And UNT's key to success is you got to have Quincy Noble score more than 10 points, and you got to have someone else score more than 10 points, and you got to make your 3-point shots. And that's how UNT women's wins basketball games.
And Quincy Noble was the only person who scored double digits that game with 14 points, and she had 0 rebounds. That's kind of a big deal too.
Townley had 11, Madison Townley.
Yeah, that did make a big difference.
It's a huge issue, and they're not getting production off the bench or from any of their other scores. Nia Boyd struggled all weekend, 1 of 15 combined from the field in both games, only 3 points. So yeah, this offense definitely needs to figure things out. And we talked about them starting slow last week. That wasn't really the case. They actually won the first half 17-12, so both offenses kind of struggled, but they allowed 48 second half points, so just a meltdown defensively in that Friday game. But Saturday they came out nicer, I should say. Quincy Noble doubled up her Friday effort, had 28 points. She once again didn't have enough help, but her offense was enough to lead them to victory in that game.
And Quincy Noble did step it up on Saturday night. She had 4 defensive rebounds, way better than the 0, I will say. Someone that showed up on Saturday night that, didn't make it in on Friday night was Jazion Jackson. She scored 11 points, okay? So she came back, she supported Quincy, but this was a close win even though. They need to produce more on offense, wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah, girls like Madison Townley, bench scorers, Jazion Jackson, they have to step up. It can't just be Quincy Noble every game. But when Nia Boyd and Quincy Noble heat up, they can rely on those two because there's enough scoring to go around there. But when Boyd's struggling or when Noble's struggling and the other one's going, they have to have help.
Someone that I really like right now is Destiny McDowell. She's not getting a whole lot of playing time. On Friday night, she played 10 minutes, but she scored 8 points in that 10 minutes. I don't know why she's not playing very much, but that's another key player, I think, to our game that needs to see the court a little bit more.
Yeah, and she had some nice rebounds in that game, too. I think you keep her on the bench, so when you have firepower to come off the bench, so all your firepower is on your starting lineup. Because when you have players like Nia Boyd that don't produce, you need someone from the bench to help out.
And they had a long pause before this series without playing. And so when they get more repetition, they're going to figure out some players that can step up. And I know that when they get more practice, they get more repetition, no matter what it is in life, you get more practice, you're going to get better. So as the girls get more practice, they're going to find out some key pieces that can help them and some key players that can help them in certain moments. So moving forward, I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, that Louisiana Tech girls team is really solid. So the fact that UNT came back on Saturday and did get that win, on Friday night, Louisiana Tech had 4 girls in double digits. 4. When you spread out your scoring among multiple players like that, you're going to come out with the win, obviously. So coming up, they play Southern Miss tonight. What are y'all's thoughts on the game?
You know, Southern Miss, I just don't, you know, UNT gives up 74 points a game, the women's, and I don't think they even have enough firepower to even do that. Southern Miss, they have a freshman who scores 10 points a game, and that's the highest they go. And you know, Southern Miss is they're 0-6 and they give up more than 70 points a game, and they're 6-0 and they give up under 70 points a game. So if you're UNT, you just got to make your three-pointers and you just got to score. You just got to have that second person with Noble to score the ball.
This is a Southern Miss girls team that shoots 45% from the field. They've only taken 46 three-point shots all season. So they're a spread the ball around on offense kind of team and get the ball to the hoop. So Madison Townley's going to have her work cut out for her this weekend. Malai Grayson's their leading scorer, their center. So that matchup, I think, is going to determine this game. Madison Townley's got to be stout on offense. Grayson also has 15 blocks this year, so a tough test for Townley.
For Southern Miss, in the games that they've won this year, they have done a much better job in the first and fourth quarter. And I think for UNT tonight and tomorrow, I think that what they're going to have to do is win the first and fourth quarter against Southern Miss, and I think that will give them a better chance in this game.
Connor, I agree. I was going to say, on the road when Southern Miss does pull out the W, it's when they beat a team in the first and in the fourth. That's essential for UNT to come out and beat them right at the start of the gate. One player on Southern Miss that I really like, and none of y'all have mentioned her, is center Kelsey Jones. She is 6'3". She averages 10 points per game, but in their last game, when they beat Louisiana Tech, she had 22 and 13 rebounds. So that, you're right, Madison Townley does
She's gonna have her work cut out for her.
Yeah, she does have
She's
her
going
work
to.
cut out for her. But my key to the game is shut down the three. Here is why. They have freshman Kaya Wormsley, okay, 8 points per game, but if she's on that three, she is hot. She's been the CUSA Freshman of the Week just 2 weeks ago, okay? I like Southern Miss. I think you guys are underestimating them just a little. It could be a split series. Thoughts?
And, you know, it could be a split series just based on the back-to-backs, but, you know, any team can win on a back-to-back, I think. And in Southern Miss, you know, one person averages double digits, 10 points, that's center. The rest, you don't know where the rest of those points are going to come from. So you never know on any given night. Southern Miss can just get some points out of nowhere from anybody on that team.
It is really important for the UNT women's basketball team to come out of the box scoring and playing really good deep. Conference USA basketball is heating up, and so are some key players around the conference. When we come back, we're going to give you kind of a look on who to keep an eye out for. Stay with us.
What's this?
Open that. Oh.
Wait, what?
Hey. Oh, did I not say? It's kitten season. Every spring cats get busy. Too busy. Thousands of kittens end up in shelters who might not make it out alive because there isn't anyone to take care of them even for a week. You were born to be a cool foster auntie. Kittens are way cuter than babies. No offense. You're a little dirty, but kittens don't judge. Foster a kitten, because it's harder to give a baby back. I've tried.
Here she comes. I, Krista, take you, Jamie, to be my wife.
The ceremony was a blast. It was just like this surreal moment of my dreams are coming true.
When we found out that we were pregnant, we were just elated. We were just sitting there waiting for the pediatrician. She said, "Oh, I apologize. She won't be taking you in as a client."
We are a lesbian couple, but she's just a baby. She's the one you're denying the service to.
And sitting there in that small, cold room, I wanted to cry, just thinking, what did we bring this kid into?
We're simply asking to treat our family the same way that you would treat any family.
With just a few weeks until the Conference USA tournament, certain players are really starting to shine. I know that all of us have our key players that are kind of in common around, the conference, but Connor, I want to go to you first because I know that you have someone that I did not have on my list of key players to watch.
That's right. I want to talk about a guard for Old Dominion. He's a senior. He's one of only 4 seniors for Old Dominion, so they have a young team. His name is Malik Curry. He was viewed and looked upon as one of the conference's best players coming into this season, and he has lived up to the billing. He's averaging just under 17 points per game, and he also has one of the conference's top turnover or assist to turnover ratios. So he's been one of the best players in the conference the last couple of years, and again, he's lived up to the billing. So he is a guy that can help carry a young Old Dominion team looking forward. And Old Dominion is a team to watch out for as well in the conference. And another player that I want to discuss is Taven Lovin. I think I talked about him earlier today. He's been also one of the most consistent players in the conference the last 3 years. And he's played significant time for the Blazers in all 3 of his seasons with them. In his first season with significant time, he averaged over 8 points per game as a true freshman. And then last season, as a true sophomore, he averaged over 12 points per game, and he's shooting over 50% from the field in all 3 of his years, including this year. And this year, he's also getting it done on the defensive side, so another really good player in a conference loaded with good players.
I'm looking at Michael Ertl, another UAB Blazer this weekend, going against La Tech. Now, we saw La Tech last weekend firsthand, obviously, shut down some of our best players. So this is the Blazers' best scorer. He's their leading scorer, and they're the team that's first place in the division right now. So how will they do against La Tech on the road? An interesting matchup to watch there. And then my other player is Tavian Kinsey from Marshall, 19.8 points a game, second in the conference in that category, and four assists and 6 rebounds as a guard. He's got outstanding numbers.
I like how that just rolled from UAB, now to Marshall, because I like Gerard Davis, who I think is just he's the playmaker of Marshall. They're number 1 in pace in CUSA. He leads CUSA in assists and steals. I think he gives Kinsley, who's second in scoring. Kinsley feeds off of him. I think Davis is just really good about running that system that Marshall has that's just super fast and is about pushing the basketball down the court. And another guy I like is Max Fielder. He's playing against Western Kentucky and Charles Bassey, who's the best CUSA player, in my opinion, this year. Max Fielder, he's amazing. He's only a sophomore. He can't shoot threes, which is weird why I picked him. I like dudes that can shoot threes, but he's 21st in scoring. He's in double digits. He's 6th in rebounds, and he's 4th in assists. As a big dude, he's 6'10", He can literally do it all. He played against Old Dominion and almost had a triple-double. So I like Max Fielder a lot. He played against UNT. We just played them. He had 12 and 14 with 8 rebounds. So I think as a sophomore, he's a guy that with a good matchup this weekend to see what he can do is just going to go see what he can do in the next couple of years.
Well, Jack, you mentioned Charles Bassey at Western Kentucky, and I like Charles a lot. He is 6'11", 235 center. That's crazy. He's averaging 17 points per game, 12 rebounds per game. Double-double. Like that for this kid. He's also the Naismith Trophy national player. He's on the watch list right now. He was on the watch list at the beginning of the season. Now he's on the mid-season watch list. Tell me you guys know Charles Bassey.
Yeah, he's nationally, he's starting to go up the ranks. He's like 4th in blocks in NCAA and rebounding. He's top 5. I mean, he's an absolute beast. And
he's leading the country in rebounds, blocks, and dunks right now.
So I'm, as a UNT fan, I'm kind of scared Zach Simmons is going to have to face this man.
Next week, too.
Yeah.
Not only that.
It's going to be a good game, and it's going to mean a lot for UNT. Following this week, obviously, you were saying earlier how we don't need to look too far ahead, Justin, but Connor, what do you think?
Well, I love how UNT plays arguably the 2 top teams in the conference moving forward with Western Kentucky and UAB. Because coming into this season, especially after the way last season ended, we all knew that UNT was going to come out with an edge. They got almost everybody returning. They have one of the conference's best players in Hamlet. So we figured that this was going to be the year. Well, if UNT wants to prove that preseason expectation, they have a chance to do so against Western Kentucky and UAB. And they get UAB at home in the last 2 games of the season. So if UNT, again, if they want to live up to their preseason billing, they have no excuses. They have everything in front of them.
Yeah, they get to control their own destiny. A team that I'm looking for in Conference USA to make some noise is maybe UTSA. Now, it pains me because they're our Conference USA rival, but they have FIU and Charlotte in their next 4 games, so presumably 3 to 4 wins there, and they get a shot at UAB at home later down the stretch. I talked about how UAB hasn't played very many road games, and they have the conference's leading scorer, Javon Jackson, 19.9 points a game. That kid is outstanding, so I'm looking at the Roadrunners as a potential sleeper.
Yeah, and I just want to go off Connor real quick. Like, I want to impose a question on y'all. Like, what do you think right now, you know, and this is kind of, I don't know if it's off topic, what team is the most scariest to y'all for UNT? Like, as
Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky.
Is it just because Charles Bassey? Or?
I mean, well, Western Kentucky is arguably top 5, top 10 best mid-major team in the country.
And
so
they usually are. They usually are is the thing. They're a threat consistently.
Now, how does Charles Bassey compared to Zach Simmons, how does that make y'all feel? In any type of way, or like?
I'm scared. I want to see how Simmons does this weekend against, you know, Tyler Stevenson's not Charles Bassey, but Simmons needs to get back to his defensive ways.
Yeah, I think it's really important for Simmons this weekend that he comes out and he plays hard because he needs to get some momentum going into Western Kentucky. Now, my sleeper team is Marshall. I had a player to watch on that list, Tavion Kinsey. I know you guys mentioned him. I have Marshall, and I know someone else in this room also has Marshall as their sleeper team. No one? Guys.
Well, I had Marshall as a sleeper team.
Okay.
But I was just talking earlier about UNT because I love UNT. I go to UNT. Why not? But yeah, I think Marshall is one of the better teams in Conference USA. They really haven't lived up to the preseason expectation, but I think moving forward that they're a team to really watch out for. They didn't perform as well as I would have liked to see against Old Dominion last weekend. They had a 21-point lead and lost in the first game against Old Dominion, and then they were down early against Old Dominion in the second game, but then they came back and won decisively. But they're a team that has the talent to stick with most of the teams in Conference USA, so look forward to them.
Every loss for Marshall has been an under 10-point difference. They played against Western Kentucky. They lost by 2 points in that second game that they played.
I think it's the style. Like I said, they're just number one in pace. They just get the ball and they just throw it down the court. Like, they push the ball to the max. They don't wait for the shot clock like UNT. I think that just style of offense just puts pressure on a defense a lot, and that's why I think they're very successful this year with it.
And UNT is going to get a crack at them later in the season too. Another good team that we're going to play. They play Middle Tennessee State this weekend. That's why I was saying Tavion Kinsey's going to have a big weekend.
They just rattled off some wins against Charlotte, which I did not expect, because last week I called Middle Tennessee the worst team in the CUSA.
Me too.
But not anymore, because they just rattled off some wins against Charlotte. But it's not just a walkover game. You know, Middle Tennessee could easily catch fire.
Well, I know there's a lot of Conference USA talk around here right now, but don't worry, we didn't forget about the rest of the NCAA. Stay with us to see what we think about the newest AP rankings.
If you love them enough to drive an hour to cheer them on as they get beat 11-0 in the rain, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the-right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Throw that ball, Diane. Woo! You got
We're going to the playoffs. I can't believe I missed that. Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone. What? I should take your phone away. No. I'll call for a ride. Hey, why does my face look like that?
I'm playing with these new face filters.
Okay, you know what? Yep, that's mine. I'm gonna need that back. No. Kevin!
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual, and she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out.
March is close, and y'all know how much I love to dance. The top 10 isn't solid yet, but that #1 seed might be. I want to talk about Gonzaga, because last week you guys were all over them, okay? They deserve that #1 spot. They have players like Drew Timme, Jalen Suggs, he's a freshman. They're a super young team. I know you guys were saying their conference isn't as good, obviously, as Baylor's, and I do agree with that, but if you look, we have one common opponent so far, and that's against Auburn, okay? And Gonzaga beat Auburn by double digits compared to Baylor, who barely beat them. Argue with me, okay? Tell me why you guys are so sold on Baylor.
You can't compare one game. I mean, come on. Baylor's resume is as rich as anybody's in the country.
I'm not comparing the one game, but that's the only game they have in common, an opponent.
But Baylor's handling Big 12 teams day in and day out on the road, and I just can't put Gonzaga above them.
Michelle, hearing you compare scores like that reminds me of a board that I saw on College Game Day. Someone had a sign like 5 or 6 years ago talking about how they compared scores, and all of a sudden I saw how they compared scores, and it got to be like an FCS school was better than Alabama based on comparison of scores. So I'm not a fan of comparison of scores after seeing something like that. Although, Michelle, I know you're going with that. But yeah, Justin, Baylor's conference is much more deep. It's more challenging week per week, just like a tournament atmosphere is going to be like. And that's why Justin and I think similarly on this. We think Baylor should be that #1 overall
Add
team.
me into that, Baylor.
And Jack.
You guys are
Michelle.
such little Texas boys right now. Come on, Gonzaga makes the tournament year after year. The Sweet 16, like the past 9, if not the Elite 8, they made it to the Final 4. They are such a contender, and because Baylor's having a really good season this season, y'all are counting them out. Let's talk about Drew Timme. Tell me you guys don't like Drew Timme. He's from J.J. Pierce, by the way, Richardson, not far. He was recruited by Kentucky, Texas, Duke, Arizona, Louisville. I had to write it all down, and he went to Gonzaga. That says some stuff.
Hey, I would have gone to Duke.
Well, maybe he's lucky that he didn't go to Duke, considering the season Duke is having this year. Who are some other teams in the top 10, regardless of ranking, that you guys see, or not coming into the top 10 maybe, regardless of ranking, or a team that you're excited for come March?
How about Belmont? They have the most wins in the country right now with 21. They were a team 2 years ago, the last tournament we've had, that really made some noise. And I think they had the potential to do that again. They're one of the best teams in the mid-majors. So I would look to see if they maybe potentially surprise some teams come March.
I still think Texas Tech, no matter how low they fall, as long as they're in the tournament, they're going to make noise. They have Mac McClung. They have a great coaching staff. They have a great young core. That's always a team that's going to be there in March for me.
And I always feel like, you can always get some offense somewhere else. But, when you got Texas Tech's defense, like, you just can't compete with that. The Big 12 defense, it's Baylor and Texas Tech. Even Texas is starting to play some good defense. And West Virginia's super physical, too. So Texas Tech is just going to make a run, I think, just like you think, Justin.
Before we dive into West Virginia, because I have a lot to say about them, I know that you have some opinions, Connor, on the SEC versus the Big 12. Do you want to go into that real quick since Jack was just hyping up the Big 12?
Sure. The SEC and Big 12 had a challenge a couple of weeks ago, and the SEC won that challenge, winning 5-4. Despite them winning that challenge, I think the Big 12 is better. Do y'all agree with that?
Absolutely. Sir, yes, sir.
I'm not really impressed with the SEC. They have some pretty good teams, and they have a couple really well-coached teams that I think could do well in the tournament. But you look at the Big 12, outside of Iowa State and K-State, which, by the way, 2 of the SEC's wins came against, I look at the rest of the other 8 teams, even Oklahoma State and TCU, and that is a much better third tier, if you will, and second tier than the SEC has second and third tier. And so I think the Big 12 and conferences like that have a lot of good teams, and the Big Ten's another one, the Big East that has been one of the better conferences in college basketball the last several years. I think you're going to see those conferences do better than the SEC. There's some other conferences, even the American Athletic. I think Houston could do well, but there's not a lot of competition. So the conferences that have more better teams, I think, will ultimately have a better tournament if you look at overall their wins.
The top 3 teams in the Big Ten right now for me are really interesting. Michigan at 3, Ohio State at 4, and Illinois at 6. Now, Michigan's been on hold with all their COVID issues since January 22nd. So we talked about the kind of issues that the women might experience. So that all pertains to Michigan. They have a big matchup that we're going to preview here in a little bit against Wisconsin. But how will they come out after that break? And then you look at Ohio State right behind them at 4, has 8 quad 1 wins, probably as good of a resume as anybody else in the country besides Baylor. And then Illinois, they have Ayo Dosunmu, 21.2 points a game, second in the Big Ten in scoring. But they don't have that many good wins, and they play bad teams close. And that's something that I think is a little worrisome for Illini fans going down the stretch. But they've won games and they've taken care of business. So those top 3 teams in the Big Ten, any of them can make noise in March Madness.
Who's your Big Ten Player of the Year? Because I'm just up in the air about Luka Garza and Kofi Cockburn. Both of them I really like a lot.
I think it's got to be Ayo Dosunmu just because Illinois' success, and Luka Garza is a great player too, but Iowa's a little bit lower in the rankings, so I think it usually comes down to wins with those kinds of awards.
So let's go. Oh, well, Connor, you can mention what you want to say, actually.
I was just going to say, it feels like with the Big Ten, we're comparing, if you were to refer to football, if you will, it's like we're comparing Alabama to Clemson, compared to the SEC, where it feels like we're comparing Rice to UNT in football. If you were to compare, what I'm trying to say is the Big Ten is just so good. It's like, well, whoever finished second or third in that conference would finish likely first in the SEC. And so I'm not trying to put the SEC down. My favorite team is LSU, okay, or maybe my second favorite team after UNT. So I'm an SEC fan, but I'm also an honest fan. And honestly, the Big Ten and the Big 12 are pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, and it's crazy. So the Big Ten is so top-heavy. You have those 3 teams, and you really have everybody else. Then the Big 12, like you said, besides 2 teams, any of those teams can make noise in March. TCU has some quality wins on the year. Oklahoma State obviously has Cunningham, who's going to be the #1 pick in the NBA draft most likely. So any of these teams in the Big 12, all 8 of them, I think it's the most balanced conference. Any of these teams can go far.
So top 10 changes is what I want to talk about. We saw some teams fall, which we're going to see all the time right now, obviously. But one team that I am excited for, and I'm going to speculate that they're going to be in the top 10 next week, West Virginia. Okay, they play OU this weekend at home. We're going to preview that game a little later. But what do y'all think about West Virginia? I have a feeling they're going to join the top 10, and they're going to sit in the top 10 for maybe the remainder of the season.
I was going to agree with you on that because they have Oklahoma and then they play Texas the next week, and they also see Baylor twice down the stretch. So we're gonna learn a lot about the Mountaineers over these next couple weeks here. But yeah, I think next week, since that Texas Tech win was so great that they had on the road, that yeah, they'll sneak into the top 10 this week and they'll probably stay there.
And besides their loss to Florida, they've played very well lately. They won like 5 of their last 6 games. Missouri just lost to Ole Miss earlier this past week. So I wouldn't be surprised if West Virginia does ultimately beat Oklahoma tomorrow, that they would reach the top 10.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how far Tech could drop. I'm not saying they're going to drop, but lost to West Virginia and OK State this week. It's just those are both losses that I think that just might drop them, but it's the Big 12. They're just going to go right back in once the season keeps going.
That's the great thing for them is that they'll get another ranked team within the next few days and be able to rebound from that loss.
Because it's a bloodbath. The Big 12 is literally a bloodbath.
I agree. What other teams do you guys see? Any sleeper teams that you're excited about? I know you mentioned Belmont earlier, Connor.
I'm still looking at Kansas, not to get into the rankings, but to make noise in March, because I know that
Justin,
they had a bad loss last week. I picked them to win, but they lost. But they're coached by Bill Self, who's been there, done that. There's a very experienced team that I think that's what will carry them in a weird season and a weird March Madness.
And speaking of experience, I'm going to go with the most experienced team in college basketball, and that's the Wisconsin Badgers. And we talked about how the Big Ten is going to do well in the tournament, and I think Wisconsin's going to be one of those teams. Wouldn't be surprised if Wisconsin snuck into the Sweet 16 Elite 8 when you're kind of expecting them to lose maybe that second round. But another team that I really like, and I'm surprised Justin hasn't mentioned them yet, is Ohio State. Now, I know they're not exactly a sleeper at number 4 currently in the AP poll, and likely to be a 1 or 2 seed at worst. But this is a team that's been playing well the last month of the season, and they've been having a winning streak in the Big Ten. So that says something extra, not just about a winning streak, but winning in the Big Ten and against good teams like they have back to back to back. So teams that typically turn it on in the month of February have really good tournaments. Auburn a couple years ago, Texas Tech a couple years ago, Villanova a few years ago. And Ohio State's one of those teams that's been playing well lately. I would not be surprised to see the Buckeyes, maybe even in the Final Four.
Let me hop in on the Buckeyes real fast. So it was E.J. Liddell who took over for the Buckeyes to start this season. But lately it's been other guys, Justin Arns sometimes, Dwayne Washington sometimes. We talked about this with UNT, that it's been other guys stepping up, and that's been the consistency with the Buckeyes, is that they're getting production off the bench. They're getting production elsewhere besides E.J. Liddell. He hasn't taken a step back. There's just been other offense to go around, and that's why the Buckeyes are having so much success right now. They're shooting the three-point ball so well right now. But in March, if you live and die by the three, that could be worrisome.
Nothing means anything in March. I think we all know that. I do. But Jack, do you have anything to say about Ohio State, or are you just...
Ohio State's cool and all, but I like Loyola Chicago. They play Drake this weekend, and Drake. Last week I was going to say Drake, but I didn't, because they were 17-0. They were on a big win streak, but now it's Loyola in the same conference that's on a big win streak, and they're 23-22. They're on a 10-game win streak. I think Loyola, if they beat Drake, I think. The past couple of years, they went on a big run. I think they made it to the Sweet 16.
Final Four.
Yeah. So Loyola, I like Loyola. They're physical, like I said earlier. So.
Do we have an update on Sister Jean, by the way? How's she doing?
I hope she's alive.
We've had a lot of other things in the news these last several months.
I guess so, yeah.
But
Wonder how she's doing.
Loyola Chicago is another team I'd watch out for in the tournament. You mentioned them, Jack. I really like the way they pass the ball. They're very, very efficient. And the way they played 3 years ago in the tournament, they could spark some upsets this year.
I agree, and that's what's fun about the tournament, right, guys? What team do you see getting upset in the tournament? Any big names high up in the top 10 you think could?
I think Houston is a name that is a team that could get upset, just because they don't play in a tough conference. The AAC doesn't really have any good teams besides them, so they don't have the experience. Whereas Big 12 teams that are playing #1 ranked teams day in and day out, they're not going to be ready for March. Is maybe the fear with the Cougars there, but they're definitely a team I look at to be upset.
I think Tennessee is another team that I'd look for to be upset. To me, they play really good defense, but they don't have enough offense to take over for a game. In the tournament, you need elite guard play, really good free throw shooting. Tennessee's okay at the free throw line, but you have to get there. And I don't know if Tennessee has the offense to really be able to make a really big, deep run in March.
Well, I hate to cut us short, but it's almost time for predictions. So thanks for staying with us so far. After the break, you're going to get our big game predictions for this week. Don't go anywhere.
I joined the Army after 9/11 because I felt like it was what I needed to do. We got our orders to go overseas, and I went to Baghdad, Iraq. We rolled over 2 anti-tank mines. It blew my Humvee up. After the explosion, I suffered a closed head injury, traumatic brain injury, burns to 60% of my body. When the doctors told me I reached my plateau, I didn't want to hear that, because I don't believe I have a plateau. I got into where I'm at because of my family and the people that have been behind me. The Wounded Warrior Project has helped me more than I could ever imagine. They've really been there to support me. I am living proof to never give up, and I will never give up.
Make-A-Wish grants a wish every 17 minutes. I know that sounds pretty magical, but in fact, it takes more than magic. It takes muscle.
So, when a kid like Fabian wishes to be a superstar, things happen. Whoa! Or when Kahim transforms into Super Kahim.
He feels invincible. It's because wishes have proven physical and emotional benefits that can give children with critical illnesses a higher chance of survival.
Help us make sure every wish comes true. Join us at wish.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Welcome back to Mean Green Game Day. The show is coming to a close, but first let's make some predictions. The UNT women's team plays Southern Miss tonight. I'm taking the UNT women. I think that they can do it if Quincy Noble comes out strong, shooting as well from the rebound, but we need Nia Boyd to show up tonight. Justin, who do you have for this game?
I was going to say the same thing. I think Nia Boyd's going to heat up tonight. I think the women are going to get this win. Jaylee Mitchell got a contract extension last week, and I think that's going to juice up the girls just a little bit more, and they're going to get this win.
I'd look for a high-scoring game, lots of points. Hopefully UNT can do a little bit better than they did last series, but I think UNT will find a way to win.
You know, I agree with all of y'all. UNT, it's Nia Boyd day. She's going to get on the board today with some three-pointers and help Quincy Noble out, and they're going to get the dub.
Let's go.
Well, let's take a shift and look at Conference USA, the men's side of things. UAB at Louisiana Tech. I have UAB. Jack, who do you have?
You know, I got La Tech. I don't know if I'm a La Tech homer or not. I've been questioning myself, but I picked La Tech last week. I just like Kenny Lofton so much, so I'm taking La Tech.
Justin?
I'm also going to take La Tech. UAB hasn't played anybody all season. We talked about this last week. It's only their 5th road game all year, and we saw this team last week, this Bulldog team. They're really physical, they're really good, and they're very good at home. So I'm going to take them in this home game.
Connor?
I'll take Louisiana Tech as well. I like the Bulldogs a lot. I love the name Bulldogs. I like the color blue. I'll go with Louisiana Tech.
I like UAB, guys. I like UAB, but I see it as a split series for the same reasons that you guys have Louisiana Tech, and that's been happening to them this season. So we'll see what happens, but let's take a look at this next game, and this is a game I'm personally excited to watch. OU at West Virginia. I think it's a no-brainer, West Virginia. OU dropped last week, and I think they're going to continue to drop a little. Jack, who do you have in this game?
Yeah, I got West Virginia. Oklahoma beat them early in the year, but West Virginia's on a roll, winning at Tech. West Virginia.
Yeah, I agree. West Virginia all the way.
West Virginia's been one of the hottest teams in the country. Oklahoma has been playing really good defense, but their offense hasn't lived up to the billing here as of late. I look for West Virginia to win a tough Big 12 matchup.
And playing in that atmosphere, too. They're playing at West Virginia. I just don't know that OU could come in and change that up, you know? Well, looking at Villanova at Creighton. I have Villanova. I like Villanova year after year. They're that team you see their name every year in March. But Creighton is also one of those teams. Jack, who do you have for this game?
You know, Creighton barely lost to Villanova earlier this season, and I like Kyle Korver a lot, so I'm going Creighton with the win, the upset.
I'm going to take Villanova. They got their eyes on a 1 seed. They're sitting at 5 right now. Obviously, the top 4 will get the 1 seeds, so I think that's their motivation to get this win.
Don't sleep on Creighton in this game. Matchup Predictor also thinks that they have a really good chance, giving them a 48% chance, but I'm going to go with the Wildcats of Villanova.
Okay, I was going to say, we almost had a split there. Sorry about that, Jack. Looking at Michigan at Wisconsin, I know I'm a lone wolf, but I'm going with Michigan, guys. They haven't played in quite some time, I know, and Wisconsin is hot. They've been playing, getting those reps in, but I like Michigan. Jack?
And like you said, Wisconsin is hot. Michigan blew them out by 20 points earlier this season. But I really like Wisconsin right now, so I'm going to go Wisconsin. I'm not a Michigan dude.
I'm going to take Michigan. I think they're going to use this break to really figure out their offense and just to get everything back on track. Wisconsin, I'm not really a fan of this season. Give me the Wolverines.
I like Wisconsin. You heard me talk about them a few minutes ago. They're one of the most experienced teams in the country. I'm going to take the Badgers. Michigan hasn't played in a while.
I'm not going to say that I'm not a fan of Wisconsin this season like you did, Justin, but I do agree. That time that Michigan had between games, they could have really been taking advantage of that, preparing. They've been watching Wisconsin heat up. So we'll see what happens in that game. Loyola Chicago at Drake. This is a game that we were talking about earlier because I know that we're excited about it. Loyola is hot too right now. I have Loyola. Who do you got, Jack?
You know, Drake made me mad last weekend because I was going to talk about them and then they just lost. So I'm going Loyola just out of spite and Drake.
I'm going to take Drake at home. I feel like they're pretty evenly matched teams, so I'll just take the home team. And Drake I feel like needs to win more than Loyola Chicago does too.
I put on the Drakes of thinking that they're going to go any further, especially come March. So I'm going to pick Loyola in this game. Loyola's been one of the most consistent teams in the mid-majors the last few seasons.
Okay, well, our favorite game of the week, I would say. The UNT men take on Southern Miss tonight at Southern Miss. I have our team, UNT. Let's go. Let's do this. We just need to show up tonight. Javion Hamlet needs to put some points up. What do you say, Jack?
I think this is the night that Javion Hamlet will shoot some free throws, and Zach Simmons and Thomas Bell will contain Tyler Stevenson, so I'm going UNT.
This is the night to experience and the night for weird things to happen on offense. Because I want them to try new things tonight, but I also want them to get the win, and I think they will.
I think having those UAB games added to their schedule will give UNT a little bit more motivation to play better, and I think they're going to start off well on this run that they need to start. I think they're going to start that run tonight with a win.
Connor, I think that's a good point. I want to go around and ask you guys what do you think the score is going to be? Do you guys have your final score predictions for this game? Is UNT going to come out really, really strong seeing now those rescheduled games? Are they going to smash Southern Miss? What are y'all's score predictions? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I will go 62-54. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game because I think Coach McCaslin agrees with me that this is kind of the game to figure things out and try new things on offense. So low-scoring game, but UNT gets the win.
Jack had a really close score for last week's game. Jack, you want to take a stab at this?
He almost nailed it right.
I almost nailed it right on the head. I was sitting with Justin, and I was like, bro, I hope they don't score so I can get the score right, but they ended up scoring. I go UNT 59, Southern Miss 54.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit higher than y'all just so we can have a little bit of difference. I'll say UNT wins 73-66.
Well, I'm glad we mentioned how spot on Jack almost was, because right now he is our rankings king.
Yeah.
Last week he went 5-1 on game predictions, pretty big deal. Me and Justin both went 3 for 3, and Connor, you went 2 for 4.
Oh no.
No, my bad. My bad. I am sorry. I got that wrong. I did you wrong, Connor. Me and Connor both went 3 for 3, and Justin, you went 2 for 4.
Oh.
How do you all feel about your predictions this week? Who's gonna be our ranking king next week?
I was shooting for too many upsets last week. That was my fault.
You know what? Growing up, I had the mentality: don't compare yourself to others. Just work on betting yourself. That's what I'm going to continue to do.
Yeah, and I'm just going to trust the gut, and that's what I go with, and Creighton better not screw me over.
You're going to keep doing you, Jack?
Yeah, just keep doing me.
All right, so real quick before we, say goodbye today, keys to the game tonight. UNT men's or Southern Miss? Keys to the game.
Just stop Tyler Stevenson. That's as simple as it is, because you got the two other guys that can score. They don't. It's just like the women's side on Southern Miss. They just don't have enough firepower, in my opinion, with UNT's defense. So I think just play your ball, Hamlet, get to the free throw line, and just stop Tyler Stevenson.
Match their physicality, consistent offense, get to the free throw line, things that they did not do against Louisiana Tech, and they'll suit themselves up well for a win.
Yeah, I think the number one key is don't overlook this opponent. You can't look at records. You got to look at final scores, and they have played some good teams tough all year. We know that they're capable of it. So UNT, I want them to get back to their game. I want them to keep moving the ball inside, start moving around better on offense. Avoid those lulls. Don't go 7 minutes and a half without scoring. That just can't happen. Get to the free throw line more. It's easy points.
Yeah, and just stop. La Tech got to the free throw line way more than UNT the past couple days. Stop fouling, bro. Just play some good defense and don't Thomas Bell stop reaching, and you're going to be solid. UNT's going to be good.
UNT needs to come in tonight, play solid, take this game and take it seriously, not look ahead. But yeah, Justin, I agree. They need to build.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think with defense, the problem is communication. I go to a lot of these games and I don't hear the guards calling out screens and stuff. That's what good teams do. They make calls on defense and on offense so everybody knows what's happening. But right now, the guards look very confused on the defensive end when they're playing against good teams, and sometimes even inside.
No one else got any more keys to the game?
Communicate, move your feet, don't play Ole defense, just adding on to the defensive side of the ball. But it's going to be key tonight. But again, consistent, efficient offense is the key in a lot of sports, and it's going to be the key tonight if UNT wants to get the victory.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for joining us today on Mean Green Game Day. The UNT women's basketball team will play Southern Miss tonight in the Super Pit at 6:30, and the men's game we were just talking about will happen at 7 in Mississippi. If you missed anything, don't worry. Check us out on YouTube at NTTV Sports, and we will see you next week.